I really didn't want to make this video. I still don't want to make this video, which means I know exactly the first book that we're going to talk about. Before I begin, we should talk about some basic ideas of why it's important to read, and why, not just that it's important to read, but it's this like crazy superpower that a lot of people just act like they don't have access to.
Use the Force, Luke.
It's over, Anakin!
If you know how to read, you have access to this superpower. It doesn't matter how little money you have access to books. I remember in the most difficult financially part of my life, the only thing that I would willingly spend money on was a book and a cup of coffee in order to be able to use a coffee shop's Wi-Fi. Thank you, Starbucks, for your $2.50, 12 hours worth of Wi-Fi and a place to sit.
Do you mean a venti?
No, I mean large. No, venti is 20. Large is large. And grande is Spanish for large.
So some basic ideas. One, you should read because it helps you become a better communicator. And if you care about anything in life, you should be caring about being a better communicator.
Wait, what?
I said!
Whether it's with people you care about,
Why are you talking like that?
It's a bad voice. I'm better. I'm stronger.
whether it's with your work that you care about,
Where were the drugs going? Where are the other drugs going? Answer me, Herbertus!
whether it's about communicating ideas that you care about, whether it's about a single person that's important to you, like a significant other, a partner. You will be a better communicator as a product of reading, and not just reading one book, but spending continual time over the course of your life reading. The world will be a better place if you can communicate the things that are important to you and clear up bad communication by reading more.
You wanted me. Here I am. Nice.
Number 2, it helps you think. In a life that continually puts challenges in front of us, it always is challenging us, it's always putting something in front of us for us to have to wrestle with.
Night is yours alone.
Being able to think clearly and being able to actually understand what it is that is motivating you and what it is that's impeding you is incredibly valuable. And reading books will help you think. One, by training your mind to be able to sit still and concentrate on something for an extended period of time. That's instilling a level of discipline inside of you that doesn't really come with much else. Video games isn't going to give you that. Netflix binging isn't going to give you that. Two, it exposes you to what a lot of people have different names for, but what I call mental models or mental frameworks or structures of thinking, different ways that people see the world, process the world, and then decide to do something in that world as a product of how they see it. Exposing yourself to all of these different mental models will shape how you see the world. It will expand how you see the world. It's like enlarging your tool set in order to be able to work on a bigger construction site. Life is a giant construction site, and only having a hammer is not the wisest thing. Expand your tool set. So why did I choose this book? This book is The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I just picked it up recently due to a friend's recommendation. Thank you very much if you ever watch this. It's pretty short. It's 140 pages or so. Took me maybe an hour or two to read it in one sitting. The reason why I brought this book is because in making this video, I'm experiencing exactly what this book is talking about, which is resistance. So the core idea behind this book is this idea of anytime that we do anything that's important to us, anytime we do anything that's good, beneficial, anytime we do anything that's not easy inherently, we're going to encounter this resistance, this force.
I feel something.
You feel it?
Yes, I feel it.
That's the Force.
Really?
Wow, it must be really strong
Oh,
with
I've
you.
never fallen.
This idea of something that is pushing against us, not a malicious force, but a force that has malicious effect. So just now, I knew that I wanted to make this video. I knew I needed to make this video because I set it in my mind to do it, and I intended to do it, and I was procrastinating, and I didn't want to do it, and I was coming up with all these magical reasons of how it was going to get done without me actually doing it, which is an interesting thing. And I literally was making a video. I'm making a video right now about what books have taught me, and this book popped into my mind about this idea of exactly what's going on inside me, this tension, this pushing back on the thing that I know I want to do. Everyone experiences it. The reason why I'm sitting down, finally, making this video is because I've read this book and it allowed me to quickly overcome, I still feel it inside me, but I'm making the video nonetheless, overcome that resistance. Reason number one of what you can learn if you read books, and also what I've learned reading books. Okay, let's get another one. The next one is Spent, Sex, Evolution, and Consumer Behavior by Geoffrey Miller. I don't know how he says his name, but that's how I'm going to say it. So Spent, pretty substantial. Not really. I mean, it's a little bit more academic. It's about 350 pages or so. You know, medium print. Super interesting. If you think about consumerism, so this idea of how much are we controlled, how much are we influenced by things, by Corvettes and motorcycles and Gucci something. Is Gucci still popular? I don't know.
I just bought a Gucci belt, now I'm flexing.
Gucci belts? Yeah, that's a thing. I see the little thing. That's a Gucci belt. Gucci belts.
I just bought a Gucci belt, now I'm flexing.
So how much are we influenced by all of that? If you don't think about these things, you will be controlled by them without realizing it. If you don't think about the way that your emotions come up, rise up, and control you, you're going to be controlled by your emotions. If you don't think about how symbols of status and power and prestige are part of this elaborate system of sexual selection and sexual prowess and sexual wares, selling yourself to the highest sexual bidder, if you're not thinking about these things, then you're going to be controlled by them. This is a perfect example of something that will control you completely, utterly, fully, and for the entirety of your life if you don't spend an extended amount of time actually understanding, attempting to grapple with these things. This book, in a way, is like the first step towards removing yourself from the prison of consumerist behavior, consumer-centric behavior, where you are doing exactly what the system wants you to do because you don't realize that there is a system in the first place. So Spent is all about consumer behavior, the signaling that we go to great ends to achieve and to send out for very basic things. Read something about consumerist behavior before you just consume for the rest of your life. Okay, next. We're going over here. No! How did this happen? There's been an accident. I like my books. That frustrates me. Putting that aside, and a postcard. This is Friedrich Nietzsche, translated by Walter Kaufmann, The Gay Science. Great book. Crazy dude for sure. I don't know him. I didn't know him, excuse me. He's no longer alive, in case you don't know who Nietzsche is. But absolutely crazy dude in my opinion. But there's nothing wrong with craziness when it's contained within a book if you understand that every single book you read, that person's going to have a very unique view of the world, and it does not mean that you need to accept the entirety of their view. You can grab something from their words, from their thoughts, from their perspectives, and find it useful in your life. Which reminds me, I can't find my my Marx book, but it's a great example of someone who I don't agree with a lot of what Marx wrote about and taught, but there are some very interesting things within his writings that I think are useful ideas. So there's a difference between finding something useful within someone's writing and accepting everything that they stand for. If you are unable to comprehend that nuance, maybe you actually shouldn't read books.
Answer me, Herbertus!
There's a ton of amazing stuff in here. This is all marked up. One of my favorite sections of the book are these short, like little thoughts, little blurbs, if you can see. So he'll have like just little sections like this one right here, where it's just a paragraph and it's just one self-contained thought. And then you see my writing all over it. One of my very favorite pieces from him has to do with writing. When I came across how he talked about his own writing, it stunned me. He talked about it in the same way that I felt about my writing, and that little piece has gotten me through so much of my own writing. That little way that he talks about writing basically has a conversation with himself. He names himself A and B, and A says, on writing, it's this difficult, it's this thing that churns my stomach, it's this thing that makes me sick to even think about. And B says, then why do you write? And A replies, well, I write because it's the only way that I have found to get rid of my thoughts. And B says, wow. I don't know what B says, but I would say wow. That's so accurate in that when I write, I don't like it. I don't even like this. Once I get in the flow of things, maybe, but this is difficult for me, and yet I know it's something I want to do, primarily in the writing sphere, because it's the most reliable way for me to get rid of my thoughts and to help shape better thoughts. Another reason why you should read. You'll discover things from incredible people that can change your life. Yeah! Perhaps one of the most closest things to a guilty pleasure that I have with reading, one of the most, I don't know, cheating things, like the binging of the things that I do in books, is the reading about people's lives. So I love biographies and autobiographies because you can go through someone's life in the span of a couple of hours and see all the decisions they made.
He chose poorly.
Not all of them. Most of the decisions they made, you can see consequences, you can see decisions, you can see the way that they see the world. And these two books are a great example of that. I have a bunch more, but it would take, I don't have enough hands to hold them. So, and I'm running out of battery. The Surrender Experiment. Just finished this one. Pretty crazy story about this guy, called himself Mickey, was into yoga and meditation and mindfulness and all these different things. Crazy life story that if you read it in conjunction with a lot of other stories about people's lives, it takes its place among this powerful effect of you being able to see all these lives laid out in front of you, and everyone's decisions and everyone's values and everyone's way of seeing the world. And it frees you from getting caught up in trying to establish the perfect view instantaneously and find it in some book and then grapple with it and hold on to it. So many people have lived their lives in such different ways, and it's okay. So Fleet, Red Hot Chili Peppers, amazing band. I love that band. Some of their music is a little frightening, but I love that band. Flea's the bassist. I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I don't really know that much about them. I picked this book up on a whim, and it's his life story. As it turns out, Flea is both incredibly talented in his music, but also in the way that his mind works and in his writing. And he's one of the most honest writers I've ever read in my entire life, in a shocking way, really. If you read this, prepare yourself for being exposed to a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects of a world you never probably knew you wanted to see. But his writing so honestly and bravely laid out his life. It's a refreshing glimpse into a life that is so different. And so different than what we would perceive it to be as well, because once you read his story, it's so different than what you imagine his story to be, just from him gyrating on stage. Same thing with this book. I never would have known anything about this man or his business or his life or his struggles or his decisions, but reading about people's lives is this incredibly powerful way to make decisions in your own life. I wanted to bring Better Angels of Our Nature by Steven Pinker up here. But it's supporting my TV because I use those to hold my TV up. Maybe that's a bad idea. Anyway, I wanted to bring it over here, but it's under the TV. So I brought this one instead, Rational Optimist, which is similar. Basically, these books, there's a vein of books that go through exhaustively the development of humankind, of civilization, of technology, of medicine, of personal hygiene, of education, of political rights, human rights, of states, of international bodies of law, of all these different things. These books lay them out. Steven Pinker's is a lot more numbers heavy. This one's a little bit more narrative style. Incredible way to be grateful for when you were born, while also realizing that when you were born was not something you had any control over. And you should be so grateful that you were born today. Be grateful for who you are and where you were born. For instance, the other book that I grabbed, Ordinary Men. This is in Poland in World War II, I believe. A story about how an ordinary group of men in Poland were conscripted into the German occupation force and used as police in the occupation force, and they went from normal, everyday Polish men to shooting mothers and their babies in fields on the regular, and shooting hundreds of mothers and babies and fathers and sons and daughters in fields in Poland and mass graves, just because they were following orders in a slow and creeping way. And if that doesn't wake you up to the idea that you should pay attention to what you're doing and why, and who you're following, and what sources of authority you're listening to, I don't know what does. As well as the malleable nature of a human. Incredibly sobering book. If you aren't reading, you're no better off than someone who doesn't know how to read. One of my favorite quotes. I don't remember who said it. Benjamin Franklin, Winston Churchill, who knows? Grab a book. I don't care how long it takes you to read through it. Set it aside as part of your life and read through at least one book. And then find out if you can add a couple of pages to the reading sessions you were doing. Start reading and grow. Expand your knowledge, expand your mind, expand your ability to deal with situations, grow your tool set. Get more than a damn hammer. Seriously. Go read a couple books.
I'm better. I'm stronger. Where were the drugs going? Where are the other drugs going? Answer me, Herbertus!
Yeah!